You're listening to the Telltale Channel. In this podcast, the studio that brought us God's Not Dead produced a movie about a Christian pastor in World War II, Dietrich Bonhoeffer. I happen to know a lot about this subject, so I went to see it on the day it premiered, and I took notes. Let's do a movie review. In September 2024, Mike Lindell set his pillow prices to a low price of only $14.88. If you're unfamiliar, that's a blaring dog whistle to Nazis. It stands for the 14 words invented by a neo-Nazi group and the 8th letter of the alphabet, HH, or Heil Hitler. He complained that he was being unfairly targeted. It didn't mean anything. Well, he set his prices to $14.88 once again. Now he doesn't have plausible deniability. He's gone full Nazi. There's this old YouTuber named Brother Jake. He isn't active anymore, but he's an ex-Mormon and absolutely hilarious. I thought it'd be interesting to take a look at some of his old videos about how Mormonism is wrong. I'm on an anti-Mormon arc right now. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, don't forget to check out my Patreon. I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. New movie came out called Bonhoeffer, Pastor, Spy, Assassin. This is the movie poster. It's got a picture of Bonhoeffer holding a gun. I've done a review of this movie on my main channel. If you're curious, then I did a whole blow-by-blow about everything that's wrong with it and all of that. So check that out. He was a pacifist. That's why the gun is so relevant. He would never hold a gun. Never. The movie was a big joke. Anyway, it wasn't based on Eric Metaxas's book, Bonhoeffer, Pastor, Prophet, Martyr, Spy, or whatever it is, but they were adjacent. And they told the same warped story. So I just kind of want to listen to Eric Metaxas's take on this movie. So Eric Metaxas went on Lance Wallnau's TV show to talk about the movie and everything. Let's give it a listen. By the way, Eric Metaxas, he's famous for his involvement in VeggieTales. I believe he voiced somebody on VeggieTales. He also wrote a book that sold millions of copies. Bonhoeffer is the title. Extremely famous. And he's a Christian nationalist nutcase. He wrote a very detailed book about Bonhoeffer. It was long. It was 400 pages or something, broke the dude's life down. And the whole thing was a lie. It was all a lie. He fabricated a fictitious, involvement in an assassination attempt on Hitler and everything else, and a bunch of other stuff. In fact, in his book, he claimed that Hitler won his election. It's a pretty straightforward claim, but it's wrong. And, I'm thinking to myself, well, I made mistakes in my books before. You just got to go back and fix it, right? Except he didn't go back and fix it. In fact, he doubled down on it.
Hitler was elected. I mean, you can manipulate, you can win over, you can brainwash enough people. That's the scary things. Our founders understood that.
That's right. At least, I was going to say, Hitler was elected. Biden had to steal the election. But
Hitler wasn't elected. Why is he saying this? He did not get elected. He was appointed chancellor by the guy that actually won the election, Paul von Hindenburg. That's what we're dealing with. That's a caliber of person we're working with here. Listen to what Lance Wallnau has to say to Eric Metaxas.
Do you see it that way, that right now?
Well, listen, we prayed for years that it would be in God's timing. And what happened with Hamas a year ago, this is clearly God's timing. That's one reason.
The Bonhoeffer movie focused pretty heavily on supporting Israel at all costs, and kind of, made it out like Israel is suffering terribly under an oppressive hand, like the Palestinians are Nazis that are pulling Jews in and putting them in concentration camps. This is fictitious stuff, but that's probably why he's mentioning this.
One reason. There are other reasons. But listen, I have for years, I know the Lord has called me to the culture, okay? I care about politics, care about theology, I care about, but the Lord has called me to the culture, and creating films and TV programs that are for everybody, not for the Christian conservatives, for everybody, because that's what evangelism is, to reach the people that you're not reaching. This is that kind of a film. You can bring your liberal relative or neighbor. You can bring.
I agree, actually. The Bonhoeffer movie, as far as a movie goes, was okay. I didn't feel like it was extreme propaganda. It was definitely propaganda. but it wasn't like way over the top Christian nationalists, like, wokeism is bad and no DEI and all that. It wasn't to that degree. It just wasn't good. It was just kind of like a boring movie for the most part, unless you know something about the subject, in which case you're disgusted by it because it's so wrong. Like, literally anybody that knows anything about this should know that it was false. The whole thing was false beginning to end. Again, like, I'm okay with some artistic license. Like, for example, Hitler is sitting in his bunker. He gets a letter from his second-in-command, Göring. Nobody had heard from Hitler in a while. Göring says, if I don't hear from you by noon the next day, then I'll take control of the military. That was the plan. He was the second in case something happened to Hitler, and he didn't know if Hitler was alive. So he writes a letter to Hitler saying that. Goebbels reads the letter out to Hitler and puts a negative spin on it to make it sound like Göring was committing treason. How do you portray that in a film? The way that they did it in Downfall, for example, was somebody else comes into the room, reads the letter as it's written, and then Goebbels twists it to be, more treasonous than it actually was. Like, I'm okay with some artistic license, some changes to kind of get the spirit of what happened, if not the fact. That's not what this was, like, at all. It was just lie after lie after lie, and the timelines didn't line up at all. It was all nonsensical trash.
Anybody to this film and they're going to go, that's a great film.
Yeah, okay.
So it's not one of the films that just folks like us like. It's a film that anybody will like, and God is at the center. It's a mainstream film with God at the center.
Okay, I suppose so. Yeah, I guess I agree.
What's the last time that happened? Like Chariots of Fire 40.
Like, bro, that happens all the time. Like, Christians control the culture in the United States. They have a stranglehold on it. Are you kidding me? When's the last time a movie was released that didn't have something to do with God? Like, God wasn't in the movie anywhere.
Years ago?
Right, exactly.
So this is a very big deal.
All right, now look, let me play the trailer for you folks right now. I want you to watch this. This is Bonhoeffer, and the title of it is Pastor Spy Assassin?
Something like that.
He was not an assassin.
Just Bonhoeffer is good enough, yeah.
All right, go, let's see it.
This is the opening sequence, and this is his twin sister, Sabine.
Something's coming. Something unstoppable.
Look around you, my friend. How much light do you see?
Yeah, that was, oh no, they're going to play, all right, we can't listen to this because they play this Disturbed song. We'll skip forward, but you get the idea. And also, like, I was waiting for characters to be introduced, waiting. Like, these people should have been introduced into this film, like, a long time ago. And then they reveal who this character was. He was in the movie the whole time. It didn't represent the person at all. Like, what? Niemöller was chewing out Bonhoeffer for opposing Hitler, and then he was speaking well of Jews? What? None of that is real. None of it. It's like an embarrassment that they would put this on film. Did the actors not read even a single book about this subject? How could they, in good conscience, have gone along with this? You're going to jump forward. Let's keep listening to Eric Metaxas' take here.
Okay, I'm begging people, your audience, to see it this weekend, because the opening weekend of a film like this is everything. If it has a big opening, now, by the way, I'll tell you, when you see it, you'll love it, and you'll say, oh, I should have seen this sooner, or I should bring so-and-so, or it's that kind of a film. But the opening weekend is everything. And to have a faith film opening in this many theaters across the country, this is a huge opportunity for the gospel, for evangelistic conversations. And the theaters don't want it. I mean, if it doesn't do right.
What? The theaters don't want it? What are you talking about? It was in theaters. I went to see it in theaters.
Many theaters across the country. This is a huge opportunity for the gospel, for evangelistic conversations. And the theaters don't want it. I mean, if it doesn't do right the first weekend, the next weekend or the weekend after that,
they're perceiving.
Yeah, no really? Are you just now realizing this? Knock me over with a feather. If something isn't making money, then it doesn't, continue on in its position on the screen or whatever. They don't continue filming this. Obviously. You think this is some conspiracy?
It is a faith film. We know it's
undeniably a faith film, but the point is it's so mainstream that I think a lot of people who aren't faith people will see it and love it. Just like with Chariots of Fire or in the
I agree. That's probably happening.
1960s, we had A Man for All Seasons. You know, there have been films like that, but it's got to be done just right. This film, it's done.
Well, we don't have a big run, but you know what this could be like? You know, what was the movie we had with Vint Caviezel?
Sound of Freedom. Yeah, it was distributed by the same company, Angel Studios. QAnon adjacent movie. The guy who's based on Tim Ballard is a QAnoner today. And the movie's been denounced by a ton of human trafficking organizations worldwide and everything because it was just all nonsense. So yeah, Angel Studios is once again waist deep in controversy.
Sound of Freedom.
Yeah, I mean, that was like this. But we had a runway on that one. This came fast. That one at least had a couple of weeks. I bought the thing in advance.
Yeah, The Sound of Freedom was really big, actually. Really big.
Yeah. No, this is. I mean, churches are buying out theaters, so this is like, you know,
this is huge. This is huge. Now, out of curiosity, were you able to go on the set during the filming at all? Were you invited on? Were you able to
I was not. I was not able to do anything like that. I mean, I think I said it. It's not officially based on my book, but the people who made the film were inspired to make a film on Bonhoeffer because of my book.
I don't know about that. Is he putting a puff in his own petticoat here? I'm not so sure. However, it did mirror a lot of the lies presented in his book. For example, it had a quote from Bonhoeffer in the movie. The quote was something to the effect of, "To not speak is to speak. To not act is to act. Silence in the face of evil is itself evil," or something like that. It had Bonhoeffer saying that in the film. That's in this book of Eric Metaxas's also. It's fake. Eric Metaxas's book was like pretty much the first instance of the quote being attributed to Bonhoeffer. I mean, it was like in a couple of other books in like the 70s or something, but Eric Metaxas really ran with that quote, and it made it to the movie. So yeah, I'll take that step and say they're probably getting a lot of their information from this book.
So the film wouldn't exist if it hadn't been for me writing the book. And I got to say, you know, the book that I wrote on Bonhoeffer, I mean, I can say this to you. I know.
And 2 million other people. I can say it to you, but nobody else. What?
You know, the book that I wrote on Bonhoeffer, I mean, I can say this to you. I know the Lord prophetically called me to write this story. It wasn't just like, I got a book about a hero of the faith. Let me write a story. God created me.
Brother, that is psychotic.
Stop it. Get some help.
How did you know? Was it couldn't shake the thought? You have a dream?
No, I will tell you. Listen, my mother, who I talk to every day, she's 90. She grew up in Nazi Germany. And the year I got saved, 1988, the man who led me to faith.
You're Greek. How did your mother grow up in Nazi Germany?
Well, my father grew up in Greece. My mother grew up in Germany. They met in an English class in New York City. So my mother's got a German accent. My father had a Greek accent. It's like a Greek and German European immigrant home that I grew up in. And they always talking about World War II because they lived through it. But I remember the year I got saved, my friend Ed Tuttle says to me, "Hey, have you heard of Dietrich Bonhoeffer?" He gives me the book Cost of Discipleship. You know who this is?
Cost of Discipleship was a book written by Dietrich Bonhoeffer, and it leaned heavily into theological discussion. It was a fine book. I've read a lot of Bonhoeffer's theological takes, if you will, and they're good. I like them just fine, but, you know, there's nothing unique about them. Like, I can get those theological takes from any pastor within 100 miles of me. He was a good guy. I love him, and I identify with him very much. And in my opinion, my moral compass aligns precisely with his. But, you know, they seem to think that it aligns with theirs too. So, anyway.
No, I never heard about this. What's that? Oh, it's a German pastor who, because of his faith in Jesus, spoke out for the Jews and was killed by the Nazis.
It wasn't because of his faith in Jesus necessarily. It was probably because he had a lot of Jewish friends and family members, and he was personally affected by it. But I'm sure that his faith in Jesus probably contributed, sure. Like, you know what? I would rather it not be because of his faith in Jesus. I'd rather it be because he's a good person, not because he feels that he's being pushed into being a good person, but because he's actually good. It better not be because of your faith in Jesus.
Never heard about this. What's that? Oh, it's a German pastor who, because of his faith in Jesus, spoke out for the Jews and was killed by the Nazis. This is a German pastor who, because of faith in Jesus, spoke against the Nazis.
And you know why this is so remarkable? Because almost nobody was like this. Almost nobody held these views. There were 18,000 pastors in the church, and of those 18,000 in the Protestant church, 2,000 or so at its height were members of the confessing church, the oppositional denomination to the Nazified Christians. About 3,000 were full-blown Nazified Christians. They call themselves German Christians, originally Christian nationalists or Protestant nationalists. And the other 12,000 or so were just intact churches that just kind of followed the ecumenical Lutheran line, basically.
I thought, are you kidding? Like that kind of faith I could be interested in, because I was, kind of hostile to the faith. And I thought, this is attractive to me that a man would live out his faith, speak against the Nazis. And, so I was captivated.
Young man, too. I mean, his 30s, 40s?
Bonhoeffer was killed. He was 39.
He was born in 1906. I believe April 1906. I actually have it in my book here. OwenMorgan.com. It's on Amazon and Audible. Was Hitler an atheist? I know exactly where it is. He was born February 6, 1906, and he was executed April 9th, 1945. So what is that? That's the 39. Yeah, I guess he had just turned 39 like 2 months earlier.
9 years old. He was engaged to be married. I mean, it's such a beautiful story that he lives out his faith. But I remember when I first heard it, I thought, this is amazing. I never dreamt I would write a biography, that it would sell 1 million. It sold well over 1 million copies.
I prefer Bonhoeffer's best friend's biography of him. The guy that lived with him and shared a bank account with him for a while. I prefer that one. I think he probably knows a little bit better about Bonhoeffer and the family. Dude that met the family members and hung out with them.
But I remember when I first heard it, I thought, this is amazing. I never dreamt I would write a biography, that it would sell 1 million. It sold well over 1 million copies, translated into 20 languages. So there's something about the story of Bonhoeffer that inspires people like crazy. I mean, when people see this film, you're going to see, you're going to be like, how did I not know? It's so beautiful. And it's a true story. I mean, the film.
No, nothing about Eric Metaxas's book or the film are true. It's all fictitious. And you know what? And Eric Metaxas knows that the film was fictitious, from beginning to end.
When people see this film, you're going to see, you're going to be like, how did I not know? It's so beautiful. And it's a true story. I mean, the film, they take a few liberties, but almost none.
Are you me right now? Almost none? There was not one scene in that film that matched up with reality. Not a single scene. It was lie after lie after lie. And it even portrayed unsung heroes of World War II as villains, like Admiral Canaris. It portrayed him as a monster. He saved countless Jews from gas chambers. The balls on somebody to put that in their movie script. What is wrong with you? Dude saved thousands of lives, and you portray him as an enemy. That is just some disgusting right there. Straight up disgusting.
It is a true story. It's not just a great movie. It's an actual true story.
No.
And that I can vouch for because I know it in detail.
He knows better than this. He knows he's full of right? He must. He can't possibly not know. He wrote a 400-page book on the subject and lied all the way through it. But he knew some real esoteric things. I went through his book, and he had some stuff in there that was pretty hard to find. And I know exactly which sources he used to find some of that stuff, too, because I found the same information. He really dug into this subject. He knows better. He knew that he was lying when he put it on paper, and he knows that he's lying right now when talking about the movie. He knows.
I taught a class for Peterson Peterson's Academy. That's going to come out in a couple of weeks.
Oh, God.
In depth or whatever. When people get their arms around this, it's there's so much to it. And I'll tell you, huge evangelistic opportunity to, if you go to this film, you bring somebody who's not a Christian, they're going to be interested in this kind of Christianity, a guy who lives out of it, but also standing up for the Jews at a time when the Jews are being demonized again in our culture.
You think that the Jews are dealing with the same problem right now that they were in Germany in 1943? Are you serious right now? There is crazy anti-Semitism in the world, like off the scales. But Israel shouldn't be synonymous with Jews. If it is synonymous with Jews in your head, then you're implicitly admitting to yourself and everyone else that it's an apartheid state. Israel shouldn't be a Jewish nation. This shouldn't be a Christian nation. It should be a nation for everybody. The Jews were victims in World War II, horrific, disgusting treatment in World War II. Now the people in Israel are perpetrating horrific evils, not to the degree of the Nazis. I don't want to say that, but they're committing evil. It's bad. How is it in his head that Israel is attacking a country of people that are completely destitute? They're attacking them right now. They're dropping bombs on refugee centers. And in his mind, that's the same as the gas chambers. I'm sorry?
What interests me is the idea that Bonhoeffer was trying to wake up the church at a time the church says, we don't want to be political. Does this?
Are you shitting me? Really? You got to be joking. That is the problem. The church was political. This guy is a joke. Bonhoeffer was not telling people to be more political. He was trying to get Hitler out of the church. He's trying to get politics out of the church. This is Holocaust revisionism. Dare I say Holocaust denial.
What interests me is the idea that Bonhoeffer was trying to wake up the church at a time the church says, we don't want to be political. Does that sound familiar? Mm-hmm. We don't want to be political. We just want to do church. We just want to do evangelism.
It's almost too bad the movie didn't come out ahead of the election.
We might have won the election.
I mean, we could have had an electoral college
we might have won the election if only it had come out. No, listen. This film is about what's happening in America today.
No, it's not. It's not even comparable.
Will the church wake up? Now, I think enough in the church woke up. I believe it's the Lord's will to deliver us from the horror of what happened in Germany. But it's like we dodged a bullet.
Well, as Elie Wiesel says in his book Night, in the preface, God isn't here. He is not helping anybody in concentration camps. He's allowing them to die. Now, you can come up with some excuse for that, some reason, moral justification. Well, he's just, he's busy. Stuck in traffic right now is the problem. So once he, gets out of traffic, he'll give us a call from a payphone and let us know where he is. No, he's gone. He's not helping anybody. Now, tell me again that God is here and going to fix your problems for you, find your keys for you and stuff. Go on.
Enough in the church woke up. I believe it's the Lord's will to deliver us from the horror of what happened in Germany. But it's like we dodged a bullet, like Donald Trump dodged a bullet. We just missed
the
death.
Church woke up. I don't know that the pulpits woke up. I think that
what does that even mean?
People woke up. Well, I think the Christians. So, what was the percentage? Do you have any recall of how much of the church in Germany was awakened and so?
Okay, I don't know what awakened means. 2,000 of the 18,000 Protestant pastors were confessing church members at most. It was honestly lower than that, especially when Hitler started implementing the Uriah order, sending people to the front lines who were kind of oppositional to him. Anyway, 2,000 pastors at its height of 18,000 were confessing church, opposed to Hitler. 3,000 of 18,000 were German Christian, Nazified, and then the other 12,000 were intact churches.
We got to do something. How much of it was confessing? How much of it was
not enough?
He has no idea. He doesn't know. Are you really? You have no idea? Are you kidding me? I mean, this is the first thing I looked up. How big and influential was the opposition? Was it a tiny little voice in the void, or was it a gigantic crowd screaming, "No, we're not going to do this"?
Not enough. I mean, I say in my book, the new book, Letter to the American Church, which is basically, it'd be
Oh, I have that book. It's crazy.
more fun to read the Bonhoeffer book, but I'm saying that in the last couple of years, I wrote a book called Letter to the American Church showing the parallels. And in that book, I say that there were 18,000 Lutheran pastors. By 1935, 2 years into the reign of the Nazis, only 3,000 of the 18,000 were standing strong. 3,000.
No, not in any way, shape, or form. Only 1,000 really were standing strong. 2,000 put their name on a piece of paper saying that they were willing to, stand in opposition to state control in church business. But by the way, the vast majority of those 2,000 were Nazis. They were still Nazis. They just believed that Jews could convert to Christianity, according to the Bible. That's all. Still didn't like Jews. He is so full of...
By 1935, 2 years into the reign of the Nazis, only 3,000 of the 18,000 were standing strong. 3,000. If just a few more had stood, it would have been another day. But they had the same excuses that the churches have in America today. Oh, we don't do politics.
No, they didn't. There was no separation of church and state in Germany at the time. In fact, the only legitimate church was the one that controlled the government in that region. That's how you knew that it was ordained by God, because he gave them control of the government in that area. There were 28 districts, and each one was controlled by like a different bishop, a different pastor, or whatever. So this is just like completely made up. Like he's just lying here. Or he's just dumb as dog. I don't know which one.
If just a few more had stood, it would have been another day. But they had the same excuses that the churches have in America today. Oh, we don't do politics. What kind of a moral midget are you that you say we don't do politics? Children are being raped at the border. Children are being mutilated.
Dude, what is wrong with him? Are you shitting me right now? You suddenly care what's happening to people on the border? Okay, great. Throw the doors open and let them in so that that's not going to happen anymore. No, he wants to send them back to their home countries where that's most definitely going to happen even more. You think the border is bad? Wait till you see where they came from to even apply for refugee status in the first place. It's almost entirely refugees seeking asylum that are coming over the border. That's totally something Jesus would do, right? Close the doors and force everybody to go back to a place that they'll probably die in.
Children are being murdered in their mother's wombs. Like you don't.
That is not happening.
Want to speak up about that? You don't want to do politics? God wants you to do politics. God wants you to speak up on these issues. The German church had the same response in the early 30s. Like, well, we don't want to get involved politically.
That's bullshit. No, they didn't. That is literally the exact opposite of what he is saying right now. The apple bag on somebody to say something like this is astounding.
We just want to do church. That's the devil's church. And that's what I've been talking about all over the country for the last 2 years. The Bonhoeffer story brings it to life. And obviously the Bonhoeffer book brings it to life because you start understanding these were people. This was not some mythical time. My mother grew up in that world. This is a real world. So the parallels are amazing. But the movie, to make a movie about this and to be able to pull it off, Lance, on a mainstream level. Now, this is, again, it's not like a Christian film or what. This is a film that anybody who sees it is going to say, wow, what a power.
It was a Christian nationalist film. No doubt about it. Well, for one thing, they included a version of Martin Niemöller, the creator of the Confessing Church. They included a version of his poem that excluded communists. First, they came for the communists, but I didn't speak out because I wasn't a communist. Then they came for the socialists, then the trade unionists, then the Jews, then me, and no one was left to speak for me. They left out the communist bit. They also didn't say nationalism almost at all. I don't remember them ever condemning nationalism, maybe once in the movie. It was definitely a Christian nationalist film, and it was just bullshit from beginning to end, all of it. Like, if you want the real, actual story, Amazon and Audible, Was Hitler an Atheist? OwenMorgan.com for signed copies. I don't create my own version. I don't, make it up or twist things around to fit a narrative. I simply put down what happened on the page. That's it. I just wanted to understand. If Hitler was an atheist, I wanted to know. If he did his things for atheistic reasons, I wanted to know. But, he wasn't an atheist, and he didn't do his things for atheistic reasons. He did, however, control the church, and they let it happen. They embraced it. Yes, please control us. We love it when you take control of the church and impose your will on it.
I think you're right. I just been looking at this. Who was the character? Now I should be asking this spontaneously, but it's like, who was the German who was also put in a concentration camp, who Hitler rebuked and said, "You leave."
That is Niemöller. You leave the Reich to me and worry about the church. That scene was not in the movie, surprisingly. That happened in 1935, I believe in March. Again, I wrote about that specific incident at length in great detail. But yeah, it was a crazy, crazy moment. God, I can't imagine being in that situation with Niemöller. That would be really, really scary. It was in 1935. Did I not put it in my timeline? Dude, I didn't put this in my timeline. I'm surprised. I mean, it is in the book, and I detail it, a lot. But yeah, here it is, right here. Church and state separation was non-existent until Hitler found it convenient, and only in specific instances. Hitler yelled back, "You leave concern for the Third Reich to me and look after the church." This happened... This is January 25th, 1934, I believe, is when... Yeah, that's when that happened. January 25th, 1934. About 3 months after Bonhoeffer fled to London.
You leave the government to me, and I'll let
Niemöller, Martin Niemöller. Now, Niemöller's in the film. He's in the film.
Is he?
Oh, yeah, he's a character in the film.
Of course, he would have to be. Yes, obviously.
And it's all true. And again,
No, God, the film is not true.
Film can only cover so much, but the actual story of Niemöller, he was a good guy. He was not
No, he was a scumbag. Niemöller, he was a bad guy, actually. A Nazi. Voted Nazi in 1924, 28, and 33. Until he finally, after the war, after being released from the concentration camps, after returning to the concentration camp to show his wife and daughter where he spent years of his life, finally, at that point, he said, "Wow, that was really wrong of me to do, wasn't it, to support the Nazi cause? I'm to blame for this," is what he said at that point. And after all of that, after the war was over, denazification was over and all of that, he supported the communists during the Cold War, too. He fought the Americans with everything that he had in the Cold War, and he was even given Soviet awards for bravery and stuff. He just was not a good person. He wasn't. Niemöller famously said something like the white race will be extinct within the next 50 years and we need to fight to preserve the white race or some other crazy thing like that. He was not a good person.
A bad guy. He was a good guy who missed it. And there are a lot of pastors like that in America. They're not evil. They don't know that they're serving the devil. They are, but they don't know it. And if they really knew it,
in a concentration camp.
He finally spoke up bravely. They put him in a concentration camp.
He finally spoke up. He was just fighting for church control, to get state out of church is what he was trying to do, to get the states to stop being involved. That's why he was taken to a concentration camp eventually. I think his charge was treason or something for his original 7 months stay in jail. He didn't have a charge for his concentration camp stay, to my knowledge. Anyway, he did not speak up bravely in favor of the Jews or in opposition to Hitler. He did not at any point do those things. He was a Nazi.
Know that they're serving the devil. They are, but they don't know it. And if they really knew it,
in a concentration camp.
He finally spoke up bravely. They put him in a concentration camp, so he was there basically for 8 years because they knew he was trouble. If he was not, a prisoner, he's going to cause trouble in Germany for Hitler. There was still the ability to fight back. This is what people forget. And
he spent 7 months in solitary from July 1937 to March 1938. And then went to a concentration camp, spent more time in solitary at Sachsenhausen, and finally got to Dachau, and it wasn't as bad in Dachau because he could go around and speak to people, although his cell was within earshot of the torture cells, so there's that.
where we are in America. We by winning this election, by the grace of the Lord Jesus, we have the ability now to begin fighting to get our country back. We have just crossed the starting line. We should have been strangled in the cradle, and have nothing. But God said, "I'm going to give you a chance. We don't deserve."
Wait, is this him admitting that Trump shouldn't have won? That it's unlikely that he would have won? Are we getting a rare moment of clarity and honesty here?
It. And just as Donald Trump was grazed by a bullet, he ought to have died. He should be dead.
Okay, whatever.
The Lord preserved him for God's purposes. America should be dead. America should be over. If we'd lost this election, America would be over. The Lord preserved us for his purposes. Now we get to begin to fight. And to me, the Bonhoeffer story, it's the ultimate story of what happens to the church in the face of evil. Does the church stand, or does just enough people say, we don't want any trouble, we're just going to do church? A lot of that, we got a lot of that in America. And I say to people, if you're going to a church like that, get out of that church.
You guys have to do this. You want to Google, I guess, because you don't know. There's no one. Is there a website?
Actually, I'll tell you. In fact, they gave me a website. If you go to angel.com.
No, thank you. Look, it's the movie poster with him holding a gun. This is disgusting right here, honestly. Holy shit, man.
That a film like this will inspire other people. It'll inspire people to say, I want to invest in a film like that. I want to make a film like that. There's a hunger for films like this. And you and I know each other. There have been a lot of films out there, a lot of Christian films, but to do it at a level where, you have Clint Eastwood's screenwriter, Clint Eastwood's editor, the cinematographer is the guy who did Gladiator, a big film for Lance Wallnau fans. This is the best of Hollywood have created a great film about a hero of the faith.
That's true. Yeah, it was some very influential people. The guy that directed Elf, I think, was involved also. Very, very big names produced this. And somehow nobody along the way stopped and said, no, this is not true at all. Literally nothing here happened. Not one person?
That doesn't happen every day. And we've got to support it this weekend.
And the business side of this is that it's a business. So if Christian movies like this are successful, then more movies are going to come like this.
And if they're not, then it was rigged, right?
This level, because you can have the mediocre ones, but this is a quality movie.
Well, this is about changing the culture. This is about changing the temperature of the whole culture, not just for the church.
So Eric, I agree with you. We got 2 years before midterms, 4 years that the man Trump shuffles off, and whoever inherits that takes it. What has to happen? And this is something we have to really think.
Yeah. Anyway, that sounds like the end of the Bonhoeffer part, but this is a joke, a disgusting joke. The Holocaust revisionism happening on the right is wild to me, from people who claim to want to protect and love Jews. How can anybody accept this? It's all lies all the way down. It's disgusting. Tell what you think in the comments. Next up, in September 2024, Mike Lindell set his pillow prices to a low, low price of only $14.88. If you're unfamiliar, that's a blaring dog whistle to Nazis. It stands for the 14 words invented by a neo-Nazi group and the 8th letter of the alphabet, HH, or Heil Hitler. He complained that he was being unfairly targeted. It didn't mean anything. Well, he set his prices to $14.88 once again. Now he doesn't have plausible deniability. He's gone full Nazi. We'll be right back. Don't forget to check out my Patreon. Also, take a look at my website, owenmorgan.com. I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. You guys may remember Mike Lindell. A while back, he started selling his pillows for $14.88 each. And now, for those who are observant in the audience, you'll recognize instantly that that is a Nazi dog whistle. It's a reference to the 14 words and the 8th letter of the alphabet, H. So, HH, Heil Hitler, that's the 88. The 14 words were not said by Hitler, but they were invented by a neo-Nazi. I forget what his name was now. But the 14 words here, I'm going to pull it up here. We must secure the existence of our people and a future for white children. because the beauty of the white Aryan woman must not perish from the earth. Those are the 14 words. Anyway, Mike Lindell, he gets some pushback on this 1488 thing. Like, why did he pick those numbers of all things? He absolutely knew what he was doing, right? You don't pick 1488 at random. And he gets called out for it, and he tries to defend himself. The funny thing is, just before that, he was selling his pillows for $14.98. So he changed it by 10 cents. Why? One can only speculate. He was called on it, went on Flashpoint to defend himself. He said, oh, I don't know what that is. Completely in the dark. I'm oblivious. You're seeing things. That's ridiculous. We'll listen in a minute. But wouldn't you know it, his pillows are $14.88 each. This is months later. I don't know if this is again or if it remained $14.88 or what, but he knows now. He knows. And he's still pricing them at $14.88. You cannot convince me that the guy does not know what he is doing. This is his defense previously when he was called on it. This clip is from late September 2024.
Used a bunch of price points, $29.88.
No. You put down $29.99, actually. I saw the price points.
$19.88, $18.88, $14.88, and $9.88. We kind of like Walmart does when they have a sale on a sale, right? That 88. What?
No. The reason that people mark things down to 95 cents is because there's a psychological study done a while back. Somebody was studying this psychological phenomenon. I don't even remember now. It's in the book Incognito by David Eagleman if you want to read about it. But the bottom line is if they priced things at $4.99 rather than $5, they would sell 6% more than otherwise. Like, sales go up. So anyway, like, there's no need to set it to 88 cents. I don't know why he would do that.
Here, we put the campaign out there. Actually, we done it a couple weeks ago, but we get it out there on social media.
Well, it's a campaign, huh? So that means it's going to come to an end soon. I wonder why it hasn't come to an end. Or I wonder why he did it again.
There on social media and stuff on Thursday and Friday. Here I get a call from all the media around the country and the world, all the way to the Daily Mail saying, what are you, a Nazi? 88 stands for Hitler and 14 for something else. And they put the words together. I'm going, who comes up with this stuff?
Nazis. Nazis come up with this stuff. And you use it. Why did he pick 1488? 1488 is like all over the place. Like, look, this is just one picture here. Swastika next to 14/88. People get tattoos of 1488 all the time. Like, this is a well-known symbol that is used in the neo-Nazi community all the time. Here you go, look. 14 on one leg, 88 on the other. 1488 on their knuckles. It's pretty popular on the knuckles. An iron cross. This one is on an iron cross. This one's on the knuckles again. I mean, this is really, really common, and it is a full-blown dog whistle. Here, 88. It's Heil Hitler. That's what that means. Oh, my God, dude. Imagine getting a tattoo on your neck of 1488 and, like, the eagle and the swastika and everything. That's crazy. That's with you for the rest of your life, for real. You cannot tell me that you didn't know this. Why did you price it at $14.88 rather than $14.95 or $98 or hell, why not $14.78? Anything else, literally anything else.
I said, it's another attack on my pillow because their CEO wants to go to paper ballots hand counted.
Oh, my God. He's such a victim.
It's as simple as that, Gene. There's no other logical reason that they would go this. This is the most nonsensical thing. And then some media called me, are you going to apologize and take it down? I said, no, I'm going to double down. The sales are on. $29.88, $19.88, $14.88.
What a colossal scumbag. He knows. He absolutely knows. And again, to this day, $14.88, it's up there now. I'm calling it, man. He is dog whistling the Nazis. You cannot convince me otherwise. Since we're talking about Mike Lindell, though, let's talk about what he's been up to. I don't know if you guys remember this one. This is from early October 2023. Dude has been working for Donald Trump for who knows how long. God, since 2016, I guess, right? He's been doing everything that he could, running himself into the ground trying to help his God Emperor Donald Trump. Check this clip out.
All the lawyers we have for MyPillow and myself in the lawsuits with the lawfare with Dominion and Smartmatic, they just filed in federal court that to drop us as our attorneys. And
all that work that this guy did for Donald Trump on his behalf, and Trump dropped him like a ton of bricks. Never cared about Mike Lindell. This guy has financially ruined himself. I can only imagine that this 1488 plot is an attempt to recover financially by appealing to Nazis. A dog whistle is called a dog whistle because it appeals to a very specific set of people and nobody else is aware. Nazis know about 1488, nobody else does.
And this comes from the lawfare, basically, and from the media. The attacks on MyPillow, what American Express did, just devastating our credit. And
American Express devastated your credit. Right. Actually, I know what he's talking about. They pulled his credit card, basically. They said that we don't trust you to pay your bill on time anymore, so you can't have it anymore. And it was a credit line of like $1 million or something. It was crazy. It was like a lot of money. Anyway, the attacks on MyPillow, quote unquote, are lawsuits because you defamed people as the CEO of MyPillow. Because, and honestly, is MyPillow even being sued? I thought it was like Mike Lindell personally being sued. I mean, yeah, MyPillow is suffering terribly because no one wants to buy a Nazi pillow. Your pillows suck anyway, Mike. They're lumpy. I know he doesn't like it when people say that.
now you're an asshole. You got that? You're an asshole, is what you are. No, he's an asshole. He's an ambulance chasing asshole. That's what you are. The lumpy pillows, kiss my ass. Put that in your book.
Yeah. Does not like it when you say they're lumpy, but isn't that like their key feature? They're lumpy because he cuts up pieces of foam. Aren't they supposed to be lumpy? Anyway, the point is, his pillows suck. I don't know why he defends it so hard. Like, honestly, I don't even know how he got so rich. How does somebody become almost a billionaire off of pillows? I mean, I guess everybody needs one.
Tax on MyPillow, what American Express did, just devastating our credit, and we have to. I can't pay the lawyers. We can't pay. There's no money left to pay them.
What goes around comes around. Welcome to the consequences of your actions. It was a series of bad financial decisions that this guy made that devastated his company, like dragging his own name through the mud, like destroying his own credibility, his reputation. This 1488 thing, that's not helping. But you know what else didn't help? You know what made things worse? This kind of thing right here. This is from November 9th, 2022.
For one thing, everybody should go to Frank's speech and get educated. We're putting
No, thank you, sir.
everything up there. Evidence has been up there from the 2020 election for months.
It hasn't. I've looked.
And it's to know that. It's to be educated so you can say, hey, Oz really did win.
He didn't.
We have a coming out of the Edison report. This is what we used. And this is.
Yeah, so this is his silver bullet, if you will, the Edison report. This is how Mike Lindell knows, quote unquote, that there was election cheating in 2020. The Edison report is basically on the ground exit polls. So people walking out of the polling locations on election day are asked, who did you vote for? Just some of the people. And this Edison company or whatever, they compile this data and make it available to the public. So Mike Lindell's looking at the Edison data, the result of exit polls, and claims that this is, evidence that Trump won without, irrefutable evidence, completely ignoring the fact that this data could be biased for any number of reasons, not just because a company's biased. I don't even think they are. If for no other reason than because they don't account for mail-in ballots. It's just exit polls. So they're just looking at people that are voting on that day. That's disproportionately Republican. And aside from all of that, the exit polls reflected exactly what we saw. There was no deviation. Mike is just coming up with some ridiculous new plot that he believes was hatched against Trump.
This is, everybody can look at that. Everybody can see this. Every vote in the country goes through Edison Research.
No, it doesn't. They are exit polls.
In New Jersey. So you pull this out in real time. You can actually, if you go to Jeff O'Donnell's website, or we have a lot of them posted on Frank's speech. We'll have them all up there tomorrow. Gene, you can see every time Oz caught up, they popped in 90,000 votes for Fetterman.
Oh my God, dude. This guy needs help, really. And you know what's funny? Actually, after like all this stuff, after all of this, oh boy, this is a beautiful mug right here, right? Boy, he looks upset about something. Anyway, after all this, he tried to come up with some new way to stop election tampering. I don't know if you guys remember this. It's called the WMD, is what he called it. Listen to what he says here. This is from August 17th, 2023. God, I thought it was older than that. This is his plan for the 2024 election.
Everyone said the machines are not online. Our routers.
They're not online.
Our voting machines, our polling, but no, they're not online. They're not online. They're not online.
That is correct.
They're not online. This was, everybody heard this, and that lie blocked us from getting our cyber evidence out every time we go to counties to get rid of the machines or go to paper. But it doesn't happen here. We're not online. We're not online. So this plan, this device here, is a wireless monitoring device. It was developed, it's the only one I believe in the world. We have quite a few, and we're mass producing them. What they do is they monitor, like if when you go into a room and you have a phone, it tells you all the internet's available, right?
Right.
It's just
all the internet's available, he says.
Captured, shows it. Now, what if there was such a device that would say, let's say you had one of those internets, Gene.
One of those internets.
And you wanted to find out everyone that had joined up to your internet.
Yeah.
And you'd also find out what kind of device it was, the IP address of it, the brand name on it, the MAC address.
Does he know what a MAC address is? It's a physical hardware address. It doesn't change from system to system. It's just like the hardware address that's on any internet or Bluetooth-enabled device or whatever. You can just look at it. It's like a series of numbers, 2 numbers, then colon, 2 numbers, colon, 2 numbers, colon. I think it's like a set of like 8 numbers or something. And you can just like you can look up the MAC address and compare it to like the list in your Bluetooth stuff or whatever if you want. What does a MAC address have to do with anything? Why are we even talking about MAC addresses?
Address of it, the brand name on it, the MAC address. If I told you that, you'd go, wow, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Not really. I mean, that's just pretty standard stuff. If something connects to your system, then you can see all that stuff about it.
Stealing your internet, right?
That's right.
But here, we can catch them in their lie. This is a wireless monitoring device. You bring it in any precinct, any polling thing, it'll pull it'll show you the cell phones online. It works on cellular, internet too, everything. Anything that's online. And now you can filter it out. Take out all the cell phones. Take out all the watches online. Take out all the, if you were outside a car that was online, we'd take that out.
He sold these things. He sold a ton of these little WMDs, which ostensibly, I guess, are little devices that detect wireless networks. I mean, can't your phone do that? I don't understand. Be clear, MAC address is not exclusive to Macs, right? I'm just like, I'm so lost.
Now you filter it down and you're in a place, well, now all of a sudden, imagine you're on election night and you have one of these, and we also have a way to, at franksocial.com now, our platform there, where you can watch it. You can sit at home in your easy chair, and it's like Ghostbusters. Red alert, red alert.
Got another one.
You got another one.
God, he's so full of shit. So where was he on election night? Hell, do we have the data on that? Did those people go from polling location, pulling the data about multiple internets, plural. No, he just like dropped it. He didn't care if there's election integrity or whatever. Never gave a shit about election integrity. He cared about making sure that Trump won. Suddenly, all that election integrity went right out the window.
Another lie caught. Another lie caught. Another lie caught. We now can police our own elections.
You have to be like 100 yards. Is that right?
Yeah. It doesn't matter. You
Somewhere
bring it right in the room. Clerks will probably want to have one.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, dude. And what's going to happen exactly? Like, I'm unclear on exactly what it does. So it pulls the internet in the room, the internets, and filters out all the watches and the phones and things. And then what does it do from there? Upload the list of internets to his website? Does it buzz? Does it vibrate? Does it have a little light on the side, like one of those pager things that you get when you're at a restaurant? I mean, I don't know what it's for. Just, God, is this guy ever going to come back to reality? I believe that he is one of many that is just mentally lost. He believes it. I think he is a die-hard believer, and his head is just gone.
What's really powerful is the other side here is going to know that this technology exists. Because it's now, correct me if I'm wrong here, but this is deeper. Yeah. It's not just something you can do on it, because there's apps out there that can show you available Wi-Fi.
Yeah, why am I paying like $100 for this device, right? Or whatever it costs.
Networks.
And what did he do with them? Where's the information? It's not on his website. Can we access that information that you gathered? This is like the clearest example of a scam that I think I've seen in a while. Can't he get in legal trouble for this? It's like those people that sold battery-powered little pocket things that claim to kill COVID when you walk around. You remember that? Just put this little thing in, or it'll prevent vaccines from hurting you or some. How is that legal to sell? That is so very clearly a scam, right? I wonder if we can find that. Is that still around? They used to sell it on Amazon. Let's see. I think this is it. Okay. God. There's so much scam stuff out there. Look, the COVIDizer. Work safer and closer during COVID. What the hell is this? It's like an astronaut's like helmet or something? What is going on? They've raised $5,000. It's close. Oh my God, bro. That is wild. Well, I guess, yeah, so it was supposed to ship in August 2020. They didn't get there, so I guess it was refunded. I'm assuming. I don't know. But $4,000 or $5,000 worth of poor fools invested in this stupid stuff, dude. People will buy anything. Personal air filters. Wait, is this it? I'm not sure if this was... No, I don't think this is the thing I was thinking of. Anyway, it's a little battery-powered thing you put in your pocket. I mean, these are all stupid, but not that stupid. How is this thing, this WMD, not, like, regulated by some government agency to prevent people from being scammed out of every penny that they own?
Networks. This is another level.
Yeah, this doesn't matter if there's Wi-Fi in the room. We wanted to know. They won't show us what's inside the machines. So they'd always said they're not online.
They're not online. And how's this machine going to prove that?
Online. This is the only device I know in the world that was developed. It took over a year. That now will say, "Hey, if you just turn your phone on, and I'm sitting here, it would pop up, ding. It would say, here's the phone, here's the brand, here."
Bro, I'm not trying to brag, but I could do this in 10 minutes. Anybody could do it in 10 minutes. Like, I haven't written code in like 6 years, or no, 5 years maybe, a long time. And it's like the most straightforward thing ever with PHP or with Python or whatever. Just a scripting language. Just bust it out in 10 minutes and you're done. Maybe even 5 minutes. You know why? Because there's a specific function to print this stuff out, to get this information and print it out. It took you a year to develop? Sounds to me like Mike Lindell is the one being scammed here.
everything. Now, if it was a computer, here's the address. If
Sure.
it's a voting machine, here's a router, here's a polling book, here's a printer. You told us they weren't online. Now, think of this. If you're a county clerk that we always go to and say, hey, we want to get rid of these machines, and they go, no, my machines aren't online. Well, might have heard a lie behind a lie, a string of lies. Well, now, that's not an acceptable excuse now, because we're going to be able to go to them clerks and go, are you really going to sit back? Because we're going to know either you're lying misconstrued or you're listening to a lie. Are you sure you want to keep them?
Okay, I think I understand what he's saying. I think he's saying this little WMD device detects, like, when a printer is connected to the internet. Well, first of all, you cannot detect that unless the printer is connected to your network, and then you can check to see. And even then, not necessarily. Also, unless it's in pairing mode, then it's not, like, seeking out a signal or whatever. You know, there's a client-server relationship when connecting to the internet. Routers serve as the server, and the computers in this scenario, I believe, serve as the clients. So the client seeks out the server. You tell it to connect, or you tell it to look for things to connect to or whatever, and it'll find the router and connect to it, or like the other way around. Or you can type you can connect it directly, type the IP address in or whatever. I mean, this is just complete nonsense. He has no idea how the internet works.
Want to keep them?
The difference with what Mike's talking about doing here, when Pat Colbeck called me on election night at 3:00 in the morning, he had discovered the Ethernet cables coming out of the election boxes and everything.
Well, that's just a lie. That didn't happen. They don't have Ethernet ports, to my knowledge.
But he had no way to prove it. What Mike's offering,
He had no way to prove it, he says.
Prove it. What Mike's offering right here, if we end up in that situation again, no longer does Pat have to try to explain what he saw without the technology and the evidence. He's going to have it.
No, because this WMD would not detect anything if it was connected by Ethernet. That's the thing. It's detecting wireless signals. Ethernet cables are not wireless. They are, by definition, wired. That is the name of a wire. Right? See, he had no proof of any of this. Knock me over the feather. I mean, there's no proof of any of it at all from anybody. There's a single guy that's telling you that he saw Ethernet cables coming out of a computer or whatever. Well, where are the other 8,000, polling locations? Like, what about their systems? There isn't another guy somewhere in the U.S., not one more guy that saw the same thing? Also, the election machines, they don't have Ethernet ports, to my knowledge. That being said, they may not be able to connect to the internet, but they might connect to Bluetooth, or maybe they'll just connect locally to a local network, so that you can go to like their IP address and use like a web interface to like program them or whatever. But you need like a username and password. I don't even know. I'm just speculating about some reason that this could happen. But to my knowledge, none of them even have network cards. Like, these people are living in a delusional fantasy land that has never manifested into anything but more delusion. Now, tell me what you think about these people in the comments. Like, these people are just, they're jokes. And it seems clear to me that they were scamming you all along with these stupid little WMDs. What is the government organization that deals with scams, like pyramid schemes and stuff? Somebody needs to get on that. Tell me what you think. Next up, there's this old YouTuber named Brother Jake. He isn't active anymore, but he's an ex-Mormon and absolutely hilarious. I thought it'd be interesting to take a look at some of his old videos about how Mormonism is wrong. I'm on an anti-Mormon arc right now. We'll be right back. Don't forget to check out my Patreon. Also, take a look at my website, owenmorgan.com. I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. There's this YouTuber named Brother Jake. I don't know if you guys heard of him. He's been around for like years, but he hasn't released anything in like 5 years. He's an ex-Mormon, and he's so funny. Oh my God. So he, quote unquote, defends the Book of Mormon in this. Give this a listen.
Hi, I'm Brother Jake. Now, there are a lot of people out there that think that the Book of Mormon is a 19th century piece of biblical fan fiction, but they couldn't be more wrong. Let me explain. But first, let's set the stage, shall we? Like I've talked about before, the Book of Mormon is a sacred book of scripture that was written by the ancient inhabitants of the Americas on these golden plate thingies and then buried for hundreds of years until the guy that buried them appeared as an angel to Joseph Smith in 1820 and told him where they were buried, which just so happened to be like right behind his house. And then Joseph Smith dug them up and translated them through the power of God by reading them off this special rock inside a hat, which I've also talked about before. So basically, the Book of Mormon is proof that Joseph Smith was a legit prophet, since if the Book of Mormon...
Dude, I love this. This is so funny. All of his little characters and everything. And you may not even notice all of the funny little references, but in the bottom right corner, he said it's totally legit. And then he put a picture of MC Hammer on the thing from the album cover, Too Legit to Quit. That's the best, dude. That's just fantastic. Too Legit to Quit. Here you go. Too Legit to Quit. MC Hammer. Just fantastic.
Inside a hat, which I've also talked about before. So basically, the Book of Mormon is proof that Joseph Smith was a legit prophet, since if the Book of Mormon is true, that would mean that Joseph Smith was telling the truth about being shown golden plates by an angel, which would mean that he was really given divine power to translate them, which would mean that he was really called of God, which would mean that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that he restored is the one true Church of Christ.
My God, dude, it is so confusing and winding and nonsensical, right? And on top of that, what about the other, like, Mormon splinter groups? There are a ton of different Mormon splinter groups based off of the line of succession. Like, I think Joseph Smith had a son, and one of the, denominations? Is that what you call it? I don't know. One of the denominations of Mormonism believes that he was the next leader. Another one believes that his second in command was supposed to be the leader. I mean, there are, like, 15 different versions of Mormonism or something like that. The same thing happened in Islam. It was a line of succession thing.
Got it? But here's the deal. There are a bunch of people that say that the Book of Mormon isn't exactly accurate or remotely plausible as a real actual history of real actual people that lived in the real actual ancient Americas, which would mean that Joseph Smith made the golden plates and the angel Moroni thing up, which would mean that he wasn't called as a prophet, which would mean that this isn't the one true Church of Christ. But don't worry, it's not a big deal at all. Now, a lot of these so-called issues with the Book of Mormon spring from the fact that the American continent apparently has always been a bit of a loner, geographically speaking, since it's, surrounded by a couple of big old oceans. But according to...
Dude, I love his style. He's really funny, right? He's so on point, too.
A bunch of scientists back millions of years ago during the last ice age, sea levels all over the world dropped because all the water got kind of sucked up into the polar ice caps, which meant that for the first time in, forever, the Americas were directly connected to other continents by a little strip of land right... Oh, here. Anyway, that allowed some animals and the humans that hunted them to just kind of wander into America.
I prefer mosey. They moseyed their way into America, yeah.
I guess. Then when the ice age ended around 10 to 15,000 years ago, the polar ice caps melted, the sea levels came back up, which put that strip of land back underwater and kind of put the kibosh on plants and animals or cultural ideas going between Eurasia and the Americas until people figured out how to sail across those big old oceans and get some trade routes going in the 15th, 16th centuries. So this is where the idea of an anachronism comes in, which is a fancy word for when something that's supposedly from a certain time period in the past has things in it that are clearly from a future time period. Well, future compared to the original time period. They're both in the past compared to like now, which means that the thing is actually from a future but still past period and not from the past period at all. You know what? How about an example?
He's so entertaining. It's such a shame that he stopped doing videos. I would totally shout him out like all day, every day if he started again. I heard he had a stroke or something. I don't know. Maybe he's totally fine and I was off base.
One day in elementary school, your friend Kevin comes up and he's like, "Hey, I'll let you look at my great-grandpa's time capsule from the Civil War for $5. And then there's one of these in there. You should probably call him a dumb, stupid, booger-eating, doo-doo head stinky liar and ask for your lunch money back. Because having that in a box of Civil War memorabilia would be... anachronistic. That's right. Take that, Kevin. You freaking jerk.
Yeah, a little sign says, "Suck it, Kevin." Interesting touch. Damn, there are a lot of really good YouTubers that just kind of faded away. It's just really sad.
Anyway, the point is that all these fancy archaeologists are saying that some of the animals and plants mentioned in the Book of Mormon are anachronistic to the ancient Americas since they didn't, exist anywhere in the Americas before the European colonists showed up. Which might make it kind of seem like the Book of Mormon was actually written by someone in post-colonial America who was just making up a story about ancient Americans based off the stuff he kind of saw around him at the time, rather.
Yeah, especially since we know that Joseph Smith used that same stupid little rock to do parlor tricks when he was younger. He used to swindle people into paying him to find hidden treasure with that little rock. I mean, how anybody fell for this is beyond me.
And being written by ancient Americans themselves. But you know what? I bet it's not that big a deal. I mean, how many of these so-called anachronistic plants and animals could there be? Let's see. There's
a lot. A whole heck of a heap.
Horses and cows and sheep and goats and donkeys and swine and bees and elephants and wheat and barley and grapes. Okay, that's a list. But you know what? We'll take them one at a time.
It's because the Book of Mormon was supposedly recorded, or it was about a time in 500 CE or something. I don't remember now. But the point is, when people were migrating over that land bridge, the Mormons believed that the Jewish people from Israel migrated to America and became the Native Americans, basically. And he believes that, Joseph Smith believed that there were two different Native American tribes, where primarily there were the Lehites and the Nephites, I think. Again, I'm not an ex-Mormon, so somebody correct me if I'm wrong on this. One had darker skin and the other had lighter skin. And dark skin is a curse. It was the curse of Cain. So the dark-skinned ones were inferior to the white-skinned ones. And that belief kind of survived through the generations all the way until the 1970s, I think. So anyway, yeah. The whole thing is just fabricated nonsense. And of course, we have DNA testing now, and we can tell that Native Americans were not Semitic, weren't Jewish, weren't nothing. They were Native Americans from I think 30,000 years ago or something is when they split off, not 2000.
And start with the horses. Okay, horses. Let's see. Horses. Okay. Looky here. Turns out there were horses in ancient America since archaeologists found pre-Columbian horse remains in Alaska, which they dated back to 8 to 10,000 years ago. Oh, that's a bit further back than the Book of Mormon, but, no biggie. Okay, horses.
I.e., there were no horses after that in America, basically. They had all died off or had changed in some significant way. They weren't in the fossil record anymore past a certain point. It is what he's saying here. And I think the point is that they were not here when the Book of Mormon was written.
Horses. Look, it obviously says horses in the Book of Mormon, but what if it's just something that got, mixed up in the translation process? Maybe the Nephites wrote the word for some other animal.
Oh my God, this is the excuse Mormons use constantly. It was not a translation, it was a translation, if you will. It was a spiritual translation. He wasn't actually reading the words and writing them down. He was telling us how he felt in his heart, which makes me want, why did he need the hat and the rock exactly? Why did he need the golden plates at all if it was a spiritual translation? I don't understand.
It existed in the Americas, like a deer or a tapir or something. Don't hold me to the deer tapir thing exactly. I'm just spitballing. But when Joseph Smith was translating it, he just kind of inserted something he was more familiar with, i.e. horse. So when it says horse, it's not horse, it's horse. That kind of flies in the face of the translation process as we understand it, since according to the people that were there, Joseph Smith was reading the translation God was providing word for word off the rock in his hat, which doesn't leave a lot of wiggle room for him to get, creative with the wording, but maybe the people who wrote the Book of Mormon did use the word horse to refer to something like a horse, like a deer or tapir. Again, not saying it was deer or tapir for sure, because that's the only thing that they were familiar with. Okay. All right. Forget the other thing I said. This is way better. It has a fancy academic name and everything. It's called lone shifting. It's when the meeting of an established.
This image in the top left, I believe this is a kind of a caricature of a famous Mormon scholar, quote unquote, dude that basically like lies on behalf of the Mormons in academic work. It's just insane.
Word is adapted to apply it to more stuff. There are examples of this happening too in real life.
By the way, he sings a song at the end of this video, so I hope you stick it out to hear the song. It's called the Hippopotamus Do-Si-Do. It's good. Top tier.
For example, when the Romans first came across one of these things, they had no idea what to call it, so they named it after something that they were familiar with that was kind of similar, hippopotamus or water horse. So that's what the Nephites did. It's loan shifting. They obviously knew what horses were since they came from the Middle East, so they totally knew what horses were, okay? But when they saw things that they weren't familiar with here in the New World, again, not saying it's these things necessarily, they called those things horses because that was the next closest thing for them. But they didn't mean, horses. They were just using their point of reference. And yes, that may seem like a mix-up that only someone with impaired vision or something would make. And to be fair, even the Romans threw a modifier in there to make sure it didn't get mixed up with the real thing. But every culture has their own way of doing things, and the whole loan shifting thing already happened once with hippopotamus, so what are you going to do? Now,
he's so funny. I love this.
At this point, some of you might be saying, but swapping out the words doesn't solve the fundamental issue, which is that any society with domesticated beasts of burden leaves a wide swath of archaeological clues beyond just the animals themselves, like corrals and grazing lands and writing tools, as well as depictions of the animals in art and religious symbolism.
Right, so I understand that the Book of Mormon has bits about horses being domesticated here, and there's like no evidence of any of that.
And there's no indication whatsoever that any society utilizing domesticated beasts of burden of any kind existed anywhere in the Americas at all before the arrival of Columbus. But you know what? There are a lot of things that we haven't discovered yet. Yeah, horses really hit it big in America after the Europeans landed, but maybe the whole beasts of burden thing just didn't go mainstream back in Book of Mormon times. Maybe.
Surprisingly, Native Americans never hit. They were in the Stone Age. They never progressed past the Stone Age. They had other technologies that were different from like the rest of the world. They just didn't have the same metals as Europeans did, I guess. They didn't have access to the same metals. So they advanced in like different directions. It's kind of like with Fallout, where instead of discovering the microchip or inventing it, they kind of went with nuclear power, nuclear radiation or something. I've never seen Fallout before or never played it. It just kind of progresses in a different direction, basically, is the point.
It's all just hidden in some part of the jungle we haven't looked at yet. Do you know for 100% certain that there aren't horse-ish remains in the undiscovered jungle?
Horse-ish remains.
Yeah, I didn't think so. So just back off there, buddy. You know what? We're spending too much time on the horses.
It's so funny.
It's a long list, but hey, one down. So, yay. Okay, moving on to cow.
Dude, and look, he put this Mormon, like, scholar, quote unquote, his head on Goku's body, it seems, from Dragon Ball Z. That's funny, man. I wish he was still around. This is so sad.
So, yay. Okay, moving on to cows. Oh, bison. Nailed it. I mean, it still doesn't solve the whole no evidence of large-scale animal domestication in the ancient Americas problem, since, by all accounts, the ancient American cultures that munched on bison would follow wild herds nomadically rather than pen them and breed them as domesticated animals in the way the use of the term cow or cattle implies in the Book of Mormon, but, potato, hippopotamus. Let's do a plant this time. Wheat. Wheat is like amaranth, which is a perennial plant that the Aztecs used as a food source, apparently. See, it even looks like wheat, more or less. So, bonus. This is fun. And you know what? I'm seeing a pattern here. In fact, I think we can polish off the rest of this list in one fell swoop.
It's all loan shifted. That's funny. So what are pigs supposed to be? Like, I don't understand. And what are bees?
I actually wrote a little song for this, just a little ditty to help you resolve any other allegedly anachronistic plants or animals.
Here we go.
In the Book of Mormon. It goes a little something like this. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. Well, it's a plague of latter days to be beset from every way by slanderific Book of Mormon gripes. They see horses mentioned here or there and feel entitled to declare the text to be anachronistic tripe. But when those fiery darts descend, it is no laughing matter, friend, and for such times I wrote this little song. It's a method of supreme deflection, whipped up just for your protection, so see if you can try and sing along.
What did he say? Supreme deflection? for your protection, dude. I love it. Mormons oftentimes, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to interrupt the song because, copyright and all that, but Mormons are often very skilled musically because I don't know why. They just have a culture of playing musical instruments. I guess if you go to college, then it shouldn't be for something academic, just be music, which don't get me wrong, music is cool, but anyway, that's fascinating.
First grab a hold of that pesky word, the one that science finds absurd. Twist it round and squint your eyes and start searching for the prize. Something you can point to as a semblance, even if it's just a slight resemblance. Just a shred of plausibility is all you need. And then you too can know the hippopotamus do-si-do.
Dude, I love that he put a little hat on the hippo. This is great, right? I'm so sad he doesn't upload anymore. Maybe I can find a way to contact him and beg him to upload new stuff. Honestly, this probably takes him forever to make each episode, like maybe a month per episode or something.
Now there are those that might dismiss and tell us that we've gone amiss. They may whine and moan and even cuss, saying we protect our intellects by taking those who wrote the text and throwing them right underneath the bus. But we're just doing what we can for the eternal life of man by giving faith an academic look.
Look, you can have faith or logic and science and knowledge. If you have evidence, you don't need faith. If you need faith, it's because you don't have evidence. If you have faith, you don't need evidence. This is just ridiculous. It just drives me nuts when these religious movements that are completely off base scientifically try to warp science to fit their ridiculous little narrative.
So next time you find yourself bowed beneath a heavy shelf, just take a page out of the Romans book. Snatch that critter by the neck before it drags you down to heck. Pick it up and swing it round and start searching up and down.
Dude, I love that. Before it drags you down to heck.
For the juicy taste of confirmation, for the warm embrace of validation. Something to help you get back up on your feet is all you need. To bask inside the glow of the hippopotamus do-si-do.
All right. I hope that helps you out. That's enough for now, I think.
Top tier. I love it, man. This is the best. I actually have like multiple videos of him. One is why Mormons love Trump or something. And then the other is part 2 of Brother Jake Defends a Book of Mormon. It's just so funny, man. Maybe I'll do another like talking about his video. It's just really good. Tell me what you think in the comments. That's all I've got for you. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, don't forget to check me out on Patreon. I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. Okay, thanks for watching, guys.